States Marine Corps.
What was your highest rank?
E5, Sergeant.
Scott, were you drafted or did you enlist?
I received a draft notice and enlisted instead of being drafted.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? When was it? Where were you living?
I was living in New Milford, Connecticut. I had a college scholarship, a 4-year free ride. I was accepted at Boston College. I decided to sit out one semester. 3 weeks later, I got a draft notice.
So you didn't even get a semester in before?
No.
Oh,
No.
God. Do you recall the date?
When I received the notice? Not really. It would have been in July of '67.
Okay, so it was 67. So when you got the draft notice, why did you decide to enlist instead of waiting to get drafted?
I went to the recruiter's office, and since my draft notice was on a Tuesday to report Thursday, anybody would give me 1 week for 1 year of service. That's who I took. And the Marine Corps gave me 2 weeks for 3 years.
What do you mean, 2 weeks for 3 years?
They gave me 2 weeks before I'd have to leave.
That was it, and that was the bonus plan.
That's it. That's all I could.
So did you go to the Navy, the Air
Yes,
Force?
yeah, they're all in one room in Danbury, Connecticut.
Oh, so all the recruiters were down in
Yes,
Danbury?
that's correct.
And you went and visited them all, and the best deal was the Marines?
That's correct.
So they were going to give you 2 weeks.
For 3 years of service. 2 weeks to gather up my belongings, sell a vehicle.
Wow. So after your 2 weeks, where did you report for basic?
Parris Island.
Can you tell me a little bit what it was like in Parris Island? What the training was like? How long you were there?
I think we were there short. I think it was 10 weeks. I'm not sure. And then we went to ITR in Camp Lejeune.
You went to what?
Camp Lejeune. It was ITR, Advanced Infantry Training.
How long were you there?
Just 2 months, I believe.
So
May
what
have
did
been also.
what did you do at Parris Island, and then what did you do at Camp Lejeune?
Physical training wasn't that difficult for me. I played 4 years of soccer in high school, and I ran track for 4 years to be part of the soccer team. At that time, we were state champions all 4 years. So I was in good shape. There was no problem there. It was just a mental breakdown that I had to endure like everyone else.
Do you recall any of your instructors?
Not by name, no.
Any memorable experiences in basic?
Perry Como's son died on the rifle range.
How?
He looked up from the butts, looked over the butts to see what it looked like coming the other direction. And we lost him at Parris Island. We had 2 or 3 suicides. People trying to get home. I remember one fellow fairly distinctly, and his wife had a baby, and he couldn't leave to see the wife or the child, and he decided to endure the route out through the swamps that night. He didn't make it. He'd never been found. Yeah. But it was good training. Probably they taught you reaction. Local Boy Scouts probably taught me what I needed to know in war. To keep the body clean no matter what. we were gone for long periods of time. And I mean, our place to sleep was the ground, and we ate what we could get supplied when we got supplied.
In advanced infantry training at Camp Lejeune, what did they teach you more extensively there? Was it more physical training?
No, it's more maneuvering, a little bit of jungle warfare, what to expect, and then also we had a little bit more training in our individual MOS, or I was a combat engineer. I had to learn the explosives, the detonation of and setting them, and to be able to record the enemy's explosive ordnance.
That was part of being a combat engineer?
That's correct.
Did you get to choose to be a combat engineer, or did the Marine Corps tell you that's what you do?
No, they told me what I was going to do.
So what are the duties of the combat engineers?
The combat engineer is to follow with the grunts, the infantrymen, and you're there for their support. If they find booby traps, they find caches of ammunition, if there's a decision made to destroy it, you do that. If you have even a helicopter or crash or whatever, and it has to be destroyed, nothing can be left for the enemy. It was my job to destroy the parts that could be reused against us.
And the training for that, was that at the advanced training?
There and in Japan.
After your Camp Lejeune training, where did you go?
Right to Camp Pendleton. I had a short stay. We thought we were going to lose my mother at the time, so I was given a break in between training. I think they normally gave like 10 days or 2 weeks before they shipped out. I think I had 4 days.
So you got to go home for 4 days?
Yes, that's correct.
And then you went back to Camp Pendleton?
Yes, that's correct.
Did you know all along, right from the get-go, that you'd probably end up in Vietnam?
Yes. Everyone knew.
From Camp Pendleton, where did you go?
Okinawa.
Did you stay there, or was it just a stop?
No, I was just a stopover, and I went to Japan for jungle survival school, and then I flew into Da Nang.
How long was the jungle survival school?
3 weeks, I believe.
What kinds of things did they teach you there?
Edible foods. Of course, and if you're in a situation like that, you can't build a fire. You can't give notice of where you are. You're taught to live on cold-blooded animals. That's the salamanders, snakes, things like that. And again, to keep your body clean, how to keep quiet, how to disguise yourself.
Did you go to Japan as a unit?
No, individually.
So you all were there as individuals, so you didn't know anybody else there?
That's correct.
Where in Japan was it located?
All I remember is that it began with an S.
So, and then you flew into Da Nang?
That's correct.
What was your first reaction? What did you feel like when you first landed?
Where to take cover. We were under attack as we came in.
You're kidding.
Right.
Welcome to Vietnam. So what did you do?
They brought us right to foxholes on the side of the airstrip, but with no ammunition, no rifle, no nothing.
What were you thinking? I can't even imagine.
Well, is this what the year's going to be like? Yeah.
I would have felt a lot better if you had a gun with you.
I had one that worked. We had so many of the ones that didn't. When I was there, they had the first M15s that were jamming and everything.
When that initial firefight stopped, and where did they take you?
Next morning, I was on a convoy convoy to going up to Quezon.
So you immediately went, as soon as you got in country, do you recall the date?
I don't recall.
So what month would it have been? It's still been 1967?
It would have been, yes, in December.
And what was your job supposed to be when you reached Quezon?
I actually stopped on the way to, with 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines on Operation Ford, and I went right to work as an engineer.
So you were assigned to the 2nd Battalion, 1st Division?
3rd Marines.
3rd Marine?
Yes. And I was 1st Engineers, 1st Marines.
You were in 2 different units?
I was with many. I never knew the people around me.
Really?
Very seldom do we stay very long at all.
So your first group was with the 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines?
That's correct.
What did you do and where were you located with them?
There, that was Operation Ford. It was just north
Ford, F-O-R-D?
Yes. It was just north of the Haibon Pass. On north of Da Nang going up the coast.
How long did you stay with that group?
That was a very short stay. It was only a couple weeks. And then
what did you do in the period that you were with them?
We were in the sweep. We knew that the NVA had established themselves on this peninsula. And we tried to give the farmers, whatnot, the opportunity to leave or to expose the NVA. And they didn't, so they went in and swept the entire peninsula. It was all real soft sand. It was super difficult to walk in.
So when you say they went in and swept it, what does that actually entail? What did
House to house, hedgerow to hedgerow, right from one coast to the other, right down to the...
And you were part of that?
Yes. Yeah. Lost quite a few people. A lot of us were new people, and they were too trusting. And it wasn't a big operation, but it was kind of a devastating one.
Well, after Operation Ford, what did you do?
Went into Quezon, or actually outside of Quezon. I worked more in the hills around Quezon than actually being in Quezon itself.
What unit were you assigned to at that point?
I think I started off with 326 first. Then I went to 126. I was back with 2-3. I served with 1-9. And back with 2-3. And I left that area still, serving for 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines.
Oh, wow. So
I was in 10 major operations up there.
Oh, my heavens. Well, let's go through them chronologically as much as you can remember. So Operation Ford was your first one.
Yes, then it was Houston.
And what can you tell me about Operation Houston?
Again, it was a sweep looking for the enemy.
Same area? Or
yes, in the hills of Quezon.
Do you recall any memorable events during Operation Houston?
That was day-to-day hell. That was like the northern end of the Asa Valley. We're right on that's the Laotian border. Always looking out for where the NVA were dug in at Korak. We're being shelled and mortared all the time. And there was probably 5,000 strong enemy in the area. And of course, that's when they were trying to do a build-up to take over Quezon, which they were never able to do.
What operation came after Houston?
I think the Scotland's came next. Scotland 1 and Scotland 2.
And what were they?
Same thing. It was just time changes.
Oh.
They're all pretty much the same. And then Pegasus 1, Pegasus 2. In between the two of them, I think between the Pegasus and Scotland's and Pegasus, there was Napoleon and Napoleon Saline.
Napoleon what?
Saline, S-A-L-E-N-E. And as I say, it was mainly just, it was all in the same area. It was just a different time.
How many days would an operation last typically?
Month.
Wow.
Sometimes longer. Sometimes there was 2 going at the same time.
Do you have any memorable experiences from any of these specific operations?
Well, there's a lot of things that I've tried to forget, and some things that I just don't want to talk about. I try to think of the good things, like if you can find a ball, you can have some fun. It was just devastating for both sides of both our side and theirs. It was just death is terrible. And there's, it's the smells, the filth that you'll never forget. And for doing it for someone that didn't care anyway and didn't want us there. Same as today.
Now, all these missions, these 10 major operations that you were on, were they all like one right after another?
Many, yes. Yeah.
So from the minute you landed in Vietnam, you were in combat basically for months.
That's correct.
Great.
Right. I think 8 months after it was in country, I took R&R.
You must have been wondering what you got yourself into.
We didn't know any different. We thought all of us were serving the same. I didn't even know there was the massive PXs and everything until probably 4 months later, when somebody told me the massive PXs in Freedom Hill, Da Nang, and things like that.
Wow.
I got one paycheck the entire time I was there. There's no place to go shopping.
I was going to say, out in the bush, there wasn't too much you could buy. Now, these operations were all in the hills of Khe Sanh. Was this during the period of the Khe Sanh siege?
The siege was for, I think, 3 months. That's actually documented as a siege. Probably from December until after Tet, when it started to break. And we were getting, taking between 1,000 and 1,300 artillery rounds a day.
Wow. Now, it was during this time in one of these operations, and I understand that they're putting you up for a...
That was in Da Nang. That was afterwards.
That was afterwards, so that hadn't even happened yet.
Oh, wait a minute. This one was, yes. This one was in Khe Sanh.
All right.
This one in particular.
So apparently now you're being put up for a commendation medal?
I received the Naval Accommodation, which is the lowest military combat award. That's what I received.
This is the one you received?
That's
you
correct.
Received this? Can you tell me for what action you received the Navy Commendation Medal?
I received it for saving the lives of 13 people from imminent death. They were abandoned on 689 in an operation to find a platoon of 19. This all happened because of change of command in Vietnam. And one officer didn't want to risk a helicopter and men to go into an area that wasn't reconned. So he left it and left the men out there alone, and they were all massacred. There was no one living when we found them 3 days later. And at the same time, as it was said, it was not recon. There was 2,000 to 3,000 NVA there, and we were about to be massacred ourselves. It was just a death trap. It was an ambush, and no one would take responsibility for what had gone on. And that's in several different occasions. 19 was 1st Battalion, 9th Marines was almost completely annihilated.
Right, so on this incident where you got it, a Marine for a platoon had gone out and
That's correct.
And ran into enemy.
Quezon was on a plateau, and the enemy was trying to get in any way possible. They had to maintain operating patrols 24 hours a day all the way around that entire area. This group strayed off that area just a little bit onto a hill, hill number 689, and which is now is known as Dead Man's Hill. And they got in trouble, went into complete radio silence, so no one knew where they were, what had happened. And that's when the change was going over with the command at Quezon. And we were getting ready to go out on a sweep. There's 3 companies from 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines. We were already saddled up, and they decided to send us in to find them. And we immediately got into trouble. And it's in the Marine Corps Chronicles, it's known as the mess. And
the mess?
The mess. And it's been documented well, but it's not been publicized very much because of what had happened there. And we came in on the wrong side of the hillside. We were trapped along the hillside from the artillery from Korak. And what they decided to do is to try to move laterally around the opposite side of the mountain so the artillery would fall over top of us. But the entire area was filled with spider holes. And there was hundreds. When they broke the ambush, they were inside of our own perimeters, which caused massive crossfires.
So did you ever even get past that point to find this?
That's when it was decided everyone was to move, to go in one direction. Oh. And people were running out of ammunition. They were stranded. They couldn't get back to lines. And they just moved to form a defensive perimeter around the other side of the hill.
And so where were you during this, and what did you do?
Well, I was traveling with Golf Company, and we got caught in the ambush. So we had both ground troops all around us, and we had the artillery coming in. We were still advancing toward the top of the hill, which what we were supposed to do until we were told to move laterally and to get out of there. Well, I could hear the guys screaming, and I wasn't going to go until I brought him back. I had the difficult part about it. Number one, it was the enemy was still there. It was all hand-to-hand combat. I had nothing but I carried a sidearm, but when you got somebody up on your shoulder, you're almost defenseless. So it was a pistol and a machete and my partner who I was carrying.
That's all you had?
Yes. But all the time, the battalion was moving away from me. I had to keep catching them. So the first carry was about 75 yards.
Okay, so you're saying you the first carry. So you actually went out to rescue these
Yes.
trapped fellow Marines.
Yes.
Did you go alone?
Yes.
Whatever made you decide to take that action?
Person was in trouble.
And did the other Marines with you realize what you were doing?
Yes.
Did any of them help you?
No.
So you went out alone to go rescue the trapped Marines.
That's correct.
So the first one, they were all wounded?
I think some of them were walking wounded, but they were pinned down, afraid, without ammunition. They'd wasted their ammunition and were out of ammunition. And there was a few walking wounded, yes, but most everyone was not ambulatory. I had to carry them.
So you had to go under fire to get to these guys, and,
Yes.
and you carried them one by one?
Yes.
How many trips did you make?
Over a dozen.
You made over a dozen trips by yourself to carry wounded back to friendly lines,
That's correct.
all under fire.
Yes.
That's pretty incredible. You should have done more than that.
I carried eight individuals. It was only
Well, you had yourself in quite a mess there. What, after you got all the wounded out, and then the citation also says that you led several walking wounded back.
yes.
When you got them all back to friendly lines, what happened?
That was already near daylight. So it was my next job to make an LC to get rid of them, for the wounded and dead to be transported out.
Because you were a combat engineer.
That's correct. Right.
So what did you do to make an LZ?
We exploded the trees. We removed the trees enough to clear a big enough area for the helicopters to come in and out, which we did with explosives.
So then did they allow the helicopters in the next day?
Yes.
And so these wounded and dead that
The wounded we got out right away. Dead took us another day or 2 days. The first dead from 1-9, their bodies were already, it was 110, 120 degrees. Bodies were decomposing, very quickly. And we tried to identify what we could and put them in a bag plus our own. We actually lost more people than what we went to find ourselves.
Oh. Do you know how many casualties you took in your own unit?
I don't remember the exact amount. It's in between 50 and 65 killed in action, almost 100 wounded. The company I happen to be with is the one that took the blunt of the ambush.
And that was golf company?
That's correct.
Well, once you cleared the LZ the next morning, what did you do? Now, I think you told me off camera that your commanding officer was not happy with you.
That I didn't know anything until later on. After we cleared that, we went back to a staging area. And at that point, I was told by 2 gunnery sergeants that I was put in for the Medal of Honor for what I had done to save their men. And then I was told that the colonel wasn't happy because no one of his men did anything. They listened to the command of the Australian colonel and left the wounded and dead behind. And the only person that ventured out to save these people was someone that wasn't under his command. I was an attachment. And he wanted to get rid of me, so they put me out on a mine sweep team on Route 9. And then which somehow mysteriously came under attack by our own LZ Hawk, which was under the command of the colonel.
Do you want to share the name of that colonel or no?
Not really. He's gone. He's dead.
So, your original colonel, as I understand, did not go with you?
Yes.
And how did an Australian colonel become in charge of your unit?
He left the command CP to the Australian colonel.
Do you know why?
Wanted to gather a few more medals, and he wanted to lead his men into what he thought was like General Custer. Didn't know there was the extra 1,000 over the hill.
Wow. So when your colonel left and the Australian colonel took over, did that Australian colonel even know any of the men under him?
That I don't know. I just know what the chronicles say.
Oh.
We didn't even know that happened. We didn't even know what the colonel was with us.
You didn't?
No.
You were just getting your orders from higher up?
Through the chain of command.
And was it the Australian colonel or your colonel that said to leave everybody there?
From what I understand, it was once we got into trouble and didn't know exactly where we were and how to get out of trouble. You know, everything had to go back to command. That the colonel with us would have to have been into a headquarters company. He had to know what the companies were doing on both sides. I wouldn't know where the radio directors went to. Did it go to him in headquarters, or did it go a couple miles away in command? Just know that, you know, afterwards that the order had come down.
Did you ever find out what happened to any of those men that you rescued?
No. We've tried. Through the investigation for this particular operation, many of the people who were wounded on it that day were contacted. Many of them have passed away. Several, especially those in command, are in asylums and have no recollection of whatever happened. Just haven't found. I wouldn't be able to remember a name either. My stay with any company was so short that I never really knew the the people around me, the other Marines.
What operation was this that when you got the Navy Commendation Medal?
See, that would have been, I think that was in April. It's almost 46 years ago today.
Exactly.
That was probably Pegasus 2. Either 1 or 2.
And so now, so you will receive the Navy Commendation Medal for this. Um, and now, I understand.
A year later,
A year later?
yes, it was sat on someone's desk. Anyone else on that particular hill was given a commendation. And there were lesser ones like this within 30 days. And mine sat on someone's desk for a year.
Well, and now there's a movement to get you the Medal of Honor for this action, 46 years later.
And now I don't want it. I would accept it only in the honor of the people that I couldn't find. But politics is wherever you go, and I don't like it.
After this operation, where did you go?
For my own safety, they sent me south. And I was in the Phu-Bai Jiaolai area. And we were looking for transport routes from the Ho Chi Minh Trail back over to the coast.
And did you find them?
Yes. Many times. That was the duty of our group, was to interrupt any movement. There was constantly small groups that were our listening posts. And if they cannot make contact with a group, I mean, they would be so severely outnumbered. But they would send messages back, and then they would take a group like that I belong to go pick a fight. And then we would see, and then I would be out with the small groups also, just to find out if they're storing stuff in the cache, and what did they store. The amounts would look like they're massing for a large operation, and where were they getting their munitions from? So from China, Russia, wherever.
And you would be able to tell that from looking at what was
Yes.
in the cache?
Yes.
And that's what you were trained to do?
Yes.
So did you come across caches often?
Oh, yes. Yes. Big and small. It, depending on the size of the group I was with, we either destroyed it or we left it.
How long were you in the Phu-Bai area?
Probably another 2 months. And then I went to back down to battalion headquarters in Da Nang, south of Da Nang, in Marble Mountain, near the Marble Mountain Air Facility.
Were you at Marble Mountain?
Yes.
And how long were you there?
Just a short period of time, because my time was about up.
What were your duties there at the headquarters?
I was mainly mine sweep teams. I was not in construction. They had found on Operation Mead River, they thought they found an underground hospital, and they needed someone to blow the top off it, because they couldn't find an entrance, and they could hear voices. And they had reason to believe that there was commanding officers within the hospital. So I was sent in to find a way to get into the tunnel system.
And did you?
Yes. And that's when I got hit.
Got hit?
I took a direct hit with an 81 mortar round. I won the lottery.
Oh my heavens. So tell me about that day.
Uh, um, the area was so thick. We had we started laying what they call a Bangalore torpedo to break some of the jungle undergrowth. And within a 10-foot section, the NVA was already lighting the other end on us. We couldn't see 3 to 5 feet in front of you. It was so thick. So what we did was we were planning on backing up and calling in for one of the stronger doses of Agent Orange to defoliate whatever we possibly could. And as we were pulling back, I got hit with a mortar round. It was a white phosphorus mortar round. Where in location or on the body?
On your body.
All over.
Oh.
And I still have I have the corpsman's report. It was both lower legs, upper left thigh, both hands, upper left arm, small back. That claim is open for 46 years. The VA would only wouldn't accept the hospital reports or the corpsman's reports. Said I only had one slight burn on my lower right leg. And I've lived with the results and I'm on long-term steroids still today. Because I was so close to the fragmentation, I've got the burn from the ash buried in my body. I've got AIDS without the virus.
Wow.
I have no...
Do you remember getting hit?
Yes.
What was your thought?
I was thrown up in the air right over backwards. I believe we killed the person who shot it before it even hit me. Now, we didn't think the mortar round went high enough or was stable enough because it was one of our rounds fired in their mortar tube. So it's not as stable. It was moving in the air. We never thought it was going to go off. But there was no place to run. It was going left, right, up, down. And it hit right off my left toe.
Were you unconscious?
No.
So where did they take you?
That happened early in the morning, and we were under constant fire all day. So there was 2 helicopters.
And location-wise for this, where was this?
Southwest of Da Nang, an area called Dodge City.
Oh.
At the bend of the river.
So you stayed there under more fire all day long?
Yes. And 2 helicopters that were going to try to get them in. Were going to come in right at dusk. And one was going to the hospital, and the other one was going to where I knew there was some of my friends on an outpost. And I didn't go to the hospital. I went to see my friends because I knew I'd never see them again. And so I went to the hospital the following day.
So you were all burned and everything, and you went to see your friends instead of going to the hospital?
Yes. And by then, the infection already set in. Number one, because of the Agent Orange that was dropped on us, and that we were in a rice paddy that was filled with both human and animal waste.
What hospital did you go to?
The Da Nang Marble Mountain Air Facility.
And what did they do for you?
They tried to debride and clean everything as best they could. Start me on IV antibiotics. And then within a week I was sent to the 106th General Hospital in Japan. Well, it was an army hospital. I was on a burn ward.
Do you know where that was?
Excuse me?
Do you know where in Japan that was?
Yokohama, I believe.
So you were on the burn unit. How long did you stay there?
About a month, I believe.
And then were you shipped home?
I got to see Bob Hope.
You're kidding.
No, the the burn ward is restricted. No visitors, no one allowed on that ward because everyone had open wounds. And those who were medics, it was an Army hospital, were complaining because they were going to miss Bob Hope. So if you get me a pair of slippers and a bathrobe and your cameras and turn your head, I'll get your pictures. And I went out to fire escape to the airfield. And I brought them all back their pictures. And it was...
You went out in your hospital gown and bathrobe?
all we had was a towel. That was the only thing we had for clothing.
So
and
they got you a bathrobe and slippers?
Yes.
They gave you cameras and you snuck out of the hospital?
Yes.
How far did you go to where was the show?
It wasn't far.
And you took
was
pictures and you came back?
Yes. Yeah.
You've made lots of daring escapes.
It was just, they helped me, I helped them.
Were you shipped immediately home from that hospital?
No, I was sent to, we came from Japan by airship to Alaska. And it was probably 90 degrees in Japan when we left. And when we hit Alaska to refuel, it was about 40 below. And we still had the towel on. And, of course, they put the hot air ducts right into the plane, so you're only cold for a few minutes. And I went to Andrews Air Force Base, was the next stop. And then they sent me to the Newport Naval Hospital in Newport, Rhode Island. That was the closest hospital to my parents.
How long were you in Newport?
Another couple months.
Did your parents come up to see you there? Could they come and visit?
Yes.
Were you discharged on a medical discharge after that?
No, I went back to duty. I went to...
Don't tell me you went back to Vietnam.
I had that option, but I went to Lynchburg, Virginia.
What were your duties in Lynchburg?
I was on I&I duty staff, where number one duty was to train reserves. There was only 11 of us regulars on the base, and we had the reserves once a month, which were responsible, and we had to take care of wounded and killed veterans. War was still going on.
What did you train the reserves in?
In my specialty, explosive ordnance.
How long were you at Lynchburg?
A little over a year.
And then where did you go?
I was given the option. I was either going to be meritoriously promoted to gunnery sergeant, or I had to leave. What had happened was didn't know that for a year I had been signing documents with my name, which required a gunnery sergeant's signature. And I was in charge of some ammo dumps and explosive arsenals. And I was signing off for them. And it required at least a gunnery sergeant to make the inspections. So to pass inspection, I either had to be a gunnery sergeant, and if they did it that way, I would have to go back to Vietnam, or I had to leave the service. And I was married at the time, so I left.
Do you recall the date, the month and year?
I think that was May of 70.
May of 70. Were you awarded any other medals and or citations? You must have got a Purple Heart.
Yes. I got a presidential unit, naval unit, uh, Navy meritorious unit, combat action. I think there's 14 in all. I got the Vietnam Cross of Gallantry. I got the Vietnam Presidential, and I got the. I'm ashamed of it, but I got the Good Conduct Medal.
That's because they didn't know you snuck out of the hospital.
Any Marine getting a Good Conduct Medal ought to be ashamed of himself.
Have your injuries continued to bother you throughout your life?
Yes.
Now you said you were exposed to heavy doses of Agent Orange. Have you been tested for Agent Orange?
Yes. I have, yes. It's caused neurological problems. It's I have little or no feeling in my feet. It caused me to lose my job. I'm a cabinet maker. Can't feel my hands. I almost cut 4 fingers off on the last mistake. So I've been retired from working pretty much. I can no longer work on a ladder. So it was time.
Scott, I'm going to ask you some questions about daily life
Mm-hmm.
while you were over in Vietnam. It sounds to me like you were in the jungles 99% of the time.
Yes.
How did you stay in touch with your family?
Didn't.
You didn't at all?
No.
No
very,
mail?
very, very seldom. First letter I got was Dear John 3 months after I was in country.
That was your very first piece?
That's correct. Yeah.
Did you happen to save it?
No. But the night before this citation was given, we had thought ourselves that we were going to be in trouble. And I wrote just a letter back to my parents on the top of a sea ration carton, and I have that.
You do have that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's scan that and add that in.
I don't have it with me, but
no, I'll come again.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Just hope I've been a son that you could be proud of.
What was your feeling when you got the Dear John letter? There was a lot of that going on in Vietnam.
Didn't care. I mean, it bothered me, but I accepted what she had said was there's been so many of you coming back, in a casket that I don't believe long before you're going to too.
And she wrote that and said that to you
Yes.
in Vietnam?
Yes.
Did you ever see her again?
No. Said it was time to start her life over.
So, really, there wasn't much in the line of mail or keeping in touch with family.
And I remember I was with so many different groups. There was no way to keep up with me.
Yeah. Was that common for combat engineers to go with so many different groups?
Yes. Some worked in groups, whereas there would be a battalion or, a squad or a platoon. We were down to a team level. One to 3, that's it.
What did you do for food? What was the food like?
Sea rations most of the time.
What does a sea ration consist of?
They were made in 1945 in a box. And you get 3 cans, one with a main meal, one with a biscuit, and salt and pepper. A little package of coffee.
So you had sea rations 3 meals a day?
No. Maybe 2 meals at best.
What would you do for the 3rd meal, or wasn't there one?
You have to save, and you eat what? We weren't really well supplied. Some areas we were, but
Were you ever in a place where you could go to like a dining hall?
couldn't do it, because that would throw the body so far off, as far as the digestive tract would be, that you would have diarrhea for a week.
Oh.
So you had to stay on the cigarettes, especially if we knew we were going to go right back out. If we knew we were going to come back to a stable area and stay there, we could do something like that. But if we knew we were just going to be there to get our shots and and then back out to a new location, we couldn't.
Did you have enough supplies other than food? Did you have enough ammunition, clothing, things that you needed? Or were there shortages?
Always shortages. Up in the hills, up in the hill country and whatnot, anytime you got a new uniform, as if someone new had gotten there and they got killed right away, and you took his uniform. No, we didn't have. We had what the Army threw away. Even what they call a 782 gear. Me going from company to company, it didn't really matter what I used or what I carried for myself. So I used mainly Army stuff. I used what they call the Alice packs.
What's an Alice pack?
It's just a brand name of it's like a belt with suspenders. It not only it gave your back and shoulders to take some of the weight, and you got to remember I carried about 100 pounds of explosives with me. So I traveled fairly heavy. So the extra suspension, helped.
How did you handle the pressure and the stress of the job? I mean, you were constantly in combat. That had to be very stressful. How did you handle that?
You can have fun at any time. It's just a state of mind.
What did you do for fun?
I'd make a ball, play football, play catch. You could throw mud balls. You'd have your own fight amongst one another. And there's always musical instruments. There's harmonicas. Somebody always could do something. Could always drum on something. We didn't have any music or anything with us out in the rear areas, but there were songs that people knew. You made your own fun.
Did you do anything special for good luck?
Made a lot of promises to God, but probably never kept.
I think you kept a couple of them.
Sometimes we were, on the small teams, you could be up for 2 or 3 days at a time without sleep, or one person on. You would just pray for 8 hours of sleep for making sure you go to Sunday school.
You said that at one point you did get some leave or R&R?
Yes.
How far into your tour was that?
8 or 9 months.
And how long did you get?
1 week.
Where did you go?
Taipei.
Did you have a choice?
We were lied to. My friend and I received a directive that you had to take R&R before your 10th month. I think it was the 10th, or maybe 9th month. So we were waiting to go to Australia. We want to be the most senior people in the company to go, so we would be first pick. So we wanted to go to Australia. And then we were given a false directive saying you had to make up your mind by a certain time. So we had to take what was available. We went to Taipei.
So how was Taipei? What'd you do there?
Well, I went to the Chinese theater. I think that's probably one of the foremost things I saw. And Stayed away from people. I actually met I think they were actually a Japanese couple, and I stayed with them. They were very Americanized. They spoke English well and everything. And I moved my hotel to the same hotel that they were at. And they just took me out and showed me the countryside.
Did you go on leave alone, or did your friend go with you?
We had to separate. They put us on two different planes, and came down to two different cities.
What was it like after having been in the bush for so many months, then going on this nice break to Taipei, then having to go back to the jungle? What was that like mentally?
You never lost the alertness. And of course, fireworks and whatnot's an everyday thing in the Orient and in different countries. And every day's a celebration of something. That kind of bothered you. Groups of people bothered you. You're always looking. And coming back was, you're back with your best friends. Your best friends were there. They weren't back home. And again, that's when all the college demonstrations and everything were going on. And when we started getting the reports that you don't want to go back home anyway. I never would have come back home if the Red Cross hadn't messed up. I signed a waiver before I left for Vietnam that my parents were not to be notified only in my death. And I never thought that they were notified, and I would have stayed in the Philippines or stayed in Hawaii and wouldn't come home. But they were notified, and then
They were notified of what?
That I was injured. But then when they tried to find out where I was, then the Red Cross picked up and said, oh, this guy signed a waiver. We can't tell him. So it left my parents in a lurch and not knowing. So I didn't go where I wanted to go. I came back to the United States.
Where would you have gone?
To Hawaii or the Philippines. There's many of us there.
And that's where you would have stayed?
Yes.
Because you knew what was going on back at home?
Yes. Didn't want any part of it.
How did you find out about what was going on back in the world?
The new people coming on.
When you did come home, what was your homecoming like, and what was your reaction when you saw what
Didn't
was
have
going
one.
on?
Didn't have one.
Nothing.
Nothing. Went to Lynchburg, Virginia. Back to the service life. There was nothing back at my home. One lady gave me a party.
She gave you a what?
They had a homecoming, kind of.
Yeah.
At her home, which I will remember from
What was your feeling when you did get back to the United States and you saw what was going on? How did people treat you?
I was spit on in Penn Station.
You were?
Yes. My mother was sick, and I had to we had to travel in uniform at the time. So I came up, took a bus trip into Penn Station, and when I was changing buses, I got spit on. So I didn't want to do anything with anyone. It took many years to accept the community again.
What did you think of your fellow servicemen, your fellow Marines?
They're my brothers. Always will be.
Did you form close relationships in Vietnam that you maintained?
No.
You're not in touch with anybody?
No. I was with too many people, and I lost too many of my friends.
What's your opinion of the officers you served under?
Most of them are okay. especially the younger ones, the second lieutenants that were right close to you. That was tough coming right into the middle of, and life expectancy wasn't very long. In Paris Island, I had the option to go to OCS, Officer Candidate School, and I chose not to because I didn't want to be a second lieutenant of the infantry unit. And I figured that's where I would have gone. So I stayed enlisted.
So you were discharged from Lynchburg?
Yes.
That was the end of your service. You chose to get out rather than become a gun researcher.
Yeah, that's correct.
What did you do in the days and weeks immediately following your discharge?
Try to get back to Connecticut and get a job. I had a wife at the time. And so
She was in Connecticut?
No, she was down in Virginia with me. But we came back to Connecticut.
Well, you were trained in explosives, so there's probably not a lot of civilian jobs in that area. What did you do for work?
Right. I should never have given up my federal dynamite license or explosive. Then I would have had a job. Because they were building 84 and everything else at the time.
So actually that training could have helped you.
It could have, yes.
Would that have transferred into a dynamite license?
There probably would be a way to do it, yes.
Yeah.
I never followed through with it.
Oh.
I've been a carpenter cabinet maker my whole life, and that's what I pursued again.
So you knew cabinetry and carpenter work before you went in the service?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Did you ever go back to school on the GI Bill? Did you ever get to Boston College?
Yes. At the time, I went to Henry Abbott in Danbury. And when I got out, there was a lot of federal money to get alumni to come back to teach. And the state paid for my education. And then I couldn't handle the kids.
You went back to teach?
Yes.
At Henry Abbott?
Yes.
What would you teach? Carpentry?
Yes.
So how long did you try it for?
I subbed for probably 3 years while I was going through my education. Most of it was nights, weekends. I went to WestCon, I went to Central, I went to Southern. Went almost year round. And then I had to have a certain many years in the field itself. And you had to sub while you're doing all this also. And I just couldn't handle the kids. There's one instance where I asked some girls to pick up their garbage they threw on the floor. And I asked the first time, the second time I told them to respect their school. And then they told me, you assaulted us. And I said, this is not going to stand ever. So I turned my termination right then and there. I wasn't going to risk my reputation for some little snot to get away with picking up her own garbage.
So did you end up with a degree?
No.
You said you went on to do carpentry?
Yes. Yeah. And at one time I owned a cabinet shop not a cabinet shop, I've had my own, well, from there I went to work back out on job sites. And then I studied with an older Russian. Oh man, he was in his 90s, and to learn how to French mat and do picture framing and matting. And I had my own shop. I had a gallery in Milford, Connecticut. I had an art studio and a picture frame shop. And then I went back and in my own cabinet shop. And that's where I've been. I just couldn't work with people. It was getting more and more difficult as the years went by to work with other people.
Do you think that's due to post-traumatic stress?
Yes.
Um, when you guys first came home from Vietnam, they weren't even calling it that, they weren't aware of it. Did the Marine Corps do anything to help you with
No.
PTSD?
No.
When did
Didn't
you
even
become,
recognize it.
no, when did you become aware that was a problem?
I knew that something was wrong, but never knew what it was. Until things, like the first wife, both wives I choked to death, or not choked to death, but damn close. Only because something happened at night, and they were the closest thing to me. But it's you just get shorter and shorter. You trust no one. Very, very few people. You become hyper vigilant, and that starts to bother you. Losing your sleep at night. There's all kinds of things that happen that you just don't understand, why it's happening to you. And there's memories that never go away. Things that have happened that this was not the worst night of my. There's many more worse than that.
That's a lot to live with. It's been many, many years now, decades in fact.
Mm-hmm.
How have you learned to cope with all of this?
With the group that we meet at Rocky Hill. I've been to half a dozen groups. This is the one I trust and the ones I go with. I just enjoy the company. I can speak with them. Very few people that I can speak with. But they become very good friends.
Knowing what you know now, having lived through combat and post-traumatic stress, what advice would you give to the new young warriors coming home from Iraq and Afghanistan?
Don't go in the first place. We're fighting a battle that can't be won. You're not going to change people who have been doing something for 1,000 years. And eventually you're going to leave and believe in the same place.
Do you see similarities between Vietnam and
Yes.
Iraq and Afghanistan?
I don't understand it at all right today. We're over there to try to free a people, to help the children and the women get an education, and a woman be able not to be abused. And then we're inviting the same people in the same churches in our country. And we want to put them at the 9/11 Memorial in New York City. We want to put a mosque there. It's the same people you're fighting over there. It's stupid. All we're doing is bring the Muslims to our country.
Scott, how would you say that your military experience influenced your thinking about war or about the military in general?
You don't like it. I mean, I learned a lot, yes. Learned a lot of brotherhood. I got to see the world. I just don't like war. I have no use for war. Don't want anything to do with it. I grew up in a hunting family. Thanksgiving, you went out and you went hunting with the grandfather, father, brothers. When I came home from Vietnam, I sold all my weapons. Didn't want to have anything to do with any of them. I mean, I was hunted myself. And I found myself as being the rabbit. Over the years, I went back to competitive shooting. But it's either trap shooting or like 22s, whatnot. My body can't stand the loud concussion. Not only the noise, but the actual concussion that sets off my nervous system. And it's not too hot with the PTSD either, especially with some of the guns that they're using today. But I enjoy competitive shooting. You have to go into a world that you're not used to be competitive. It has to be total concentration. Got to listen to your heart. You have to know your heartbeat, your respirations, everything. To be good. If you just want to go shoot, go shoot. But if I get involved in something, I either want to do it all the way or I don't want to do it at all.
Did you join any veterans organizations after you got out?
Belong to all of them.
You do?
Yeah, pretty much.
Are you active in all of them now?
No. The one I'm mostly active is the AMVETS. And then, of course, there would be the Marine Corps League. I belong to VFW. I belong to the American Legion. I belong to the Purple Heart Club. I belong to the 1st Marine Division, 3rd Marine Division, and Vietnam veterans.
Which ones are you most active with? The AMVETS and the Marine Corps League?
Yeah, those two.
Have you ever attended any reunions? Have they even have any of the groups?
They have them, but they're usually around the Nevada, Arizona, California, Texas. Very few is there one in New England.
So you haven't gone to any?
No, I haven't. No, I wouldn't know anybody anyway. I don't remember names.
Have you stayed in touch with anybody from Vietnam?
No. I know every once in a while I run into someone like Sam Beeman. Only, talking, and we wear a red jacket, and I saw his, and I saw all the names and places. And I said, Sam, I could wear your jacket.
Really? Do you think you were there at the same time?
Oh, I'm positive we were.
Do you think you were even in some of the same operations?
He was taking the bodies off this hill.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's the only connections I have and we do the Marine Corps birthday every year, November 10th. There's 2 people from over in New York. This is up in Massachusetts that I go to. And there's people that I know that have been in the same area. And this group in Rocky Hill, we just have a new person come in. Oh, he's been there maybe 3-4 months, maybe a little bit more. He was from the same outfit I was in. But see, I was in A company, we went north. He was in B company and went south.
Oh, wow. Scott, how would you say that your military service affected your life?
Changed discipline, of course. It's just a different way of looking at things. I probably would have ended up, the PTSD changed things quite a bit, but whereas I probably would have been more outgoing. Early on, when I didn't have the effects of the PTSD, I was master of my lodge at a Masonic lodge. I was a member of Grand Lodge afterwards. And then that's when it started to, from there went downhill. But, and it probably took control of my life. I've never been a drug or alcohol abuser. I may have one drink a year. If I happen to stay awake long enough to watch the new year come in. So that wasn't part of it. That part of the.
Do you have regrets?
Of the service? No, I guess it is what it is. You know, could have been worse. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to tell me about? Any other memorable incidents or experiences that we haven't talked about?
Well, it's just that I wish the government gave the returning veterans a fair shake. They've been abusing them to line their own pockets. And there's proof that they're actually even stealing from the veterans. And what they're doing today is a sin. And the budget means so much that our main hospital down in West Haven has got filthy operating rooms. I mean, it's not right. And it's the people, the doctors, the nurses, and the group they're fantastic. They're great. A lot of them have associations with the service, but it's the ones that are trying to save a dollar, and that's where we have a problem. I feel sorry for the veterans. But my son put 27 years in the Navy, and then he still works for the government. They didn't want to lose him, so they hired him on as a private contractor. And his wife put in 24 years in the Navy. And she served the last 3 in the Marine Corps, or dressed as a Marine. Well, it's been really good for them. I can't say that, both of them traveled and saw the world. And have a great living today. I just wish the veterans got an even shake. It's going to come too late for me. But I'd like to see the kids that did go over and serve. And it's a shame. Those that are there today, there's not as many that, they're not as heroic as you think. They just need a job. There's no jobs here. They have wives and children while they're in high school. They need a job. And they go and put their life on the line. And then they come back, and what they were promised is, stand in the line for the education that they're not going to get that they were promised. I wish I could do more for them, that's all. And that's why I stay active in the few groups that I do, is to try to help the kids coming back.
Well, Scott, I'd like to thank you for your service to our country, and thank you for sharing your story.
Well, thank you for doing your share now.